we're just going to get that going. Okay, fantastic. So although we're virtual and joining in from many different physical locations, I still want to acknowledge that the land Sierra Nevada University is located on in Incline Village is on traditional Washoe land. And the Washoe people have lived and thrived and stewarded this land long before the school was here. And we acknowledge the Washoe people for the care of this land and pay our respects to elders past and present. And I want to welcome all of our old and new faces and friends with their cameras off to our SNU gallery programming. I know in COVID, this is a little different than we're used to, but it's still so exciting to be able to gather in community with one another, even if it is through the Zoom screen. And it's also fun because we get to see people who maybe wouldn't normally make it in person. And so that's always very exciting. And as you all know, we're part of the Fine Arts Department at Sierra Nevada University. And okay, sorry, I'm just checking I have so many screens open right now and making sure everything's running properly. So for those of you who maybe have heard about the Perspectives on Design Award or have heard us refer to it as POD, so what that's all about is this is an award that's presented annually at commencement that recognizes an extraordinary graduating student artist. And along with that award is a stipend that helps offset the costs of art supplies and incidentals related to art making during the year following that student's graduation. It's been funded by anonymous donors who have a deep love for higher education and are committed to supporting emerging artists as they continue their artistic endeavors. The work that's created in that year post-graduation is then exhibited as part of a display, which is what we're all gathering for this evening. And I can just say personally, as someone who has graduated with a BFA, that first year after graduating is one of the hardest because you've kind of lost the structure, you've lost your traditional studio, you've lost your critiquing and your professors. And so being able to get support during that first year is really critical and really powerful for a young emerging artist. So I really am excited that this is something that Sierra Nevada University is able to offer, and absolutely thrilled that Anna was able to have this support and be able to put together this exhibition for us all to enjoy. So how this is gonna work tonight is I'll kind of wrap up my intros and we'll turn off our videos and microphones while Anna talks. And then at the end, she's going to open up for a Q&A. So you're welcome to turn back on and join us so we can see your faces. And the very last thing I'm going to say is I want to invite you all personally to the rest of our programming for the fall. A week from today, same place, same time, just a different Zoom link, will be an evening with Scott Mcpheeters, who's here with us tonight. And Scott is a recent MFA grad from our interdisciplinary arts program and is a performance-based artist and teaching artist, and is going to be offering us some reflections on attempting physical empathy with the more than human world, and offering us some movement meditations inspired by the resiliency of invasive plant species. And I've done some movement meditation type things that Scott's offered before, and they're absolutely fantastic. And I'm really looking forward to the evening. So please, please, please join us here next week, Wednesday, November 4th, 5:30 Pacific time. And then a couple weeks after that, we're gonna have Latinos Who Lunch, which is a podcasting duo, Justin Favela and Emmanuel Ortega. And they're going to be speaking with us particularly around myth and the presence and the erasure of the Latinx community in regards to the Western landscape, and even more particularly Western land art. So that's going to be a super fascinating conversation and a really lively Q&A. So please come back and join us for that. And then in December, we've got Kirsten Vickery, who I saw and then disappear. She'll be presenting her BFA on December 9th. So keep an eye out for those. We hope that you'll be joining us back here again. And with that, I'm going to hand it off to Anna.
Cool. Sounds good.
Okay.
Let me do the screen share.
Yeah, we invite you to turn off your videos while Anna presents so we can focus on her slideshow. If you want to be able to still see Anna, once you go into this view, you can kind of see this green bar that says you're viewing Anna Bunnell's screen, and you can click view options and go side by side mode, and you'll be able to see Anna's video as well as her. Unless Anna, did you turn off your video?
Yeah, I did. I could turn it back on.
Okay, we don't need to see your face. It's fine.
Everybody can hear me right now?
Yes, we've got you on audio.
Cool. It was just asking me a question about, I clicked that little box we talked about, about sharing my audio, like video.
Great.
So hopefully that works later. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Anna Bunnell. I am from Springville, Utah, and this is a photograph of me and my siblings. I grew up in a pretty religious area and kind of a religious background. And when I was looking to go to college, one of the main reasons I ended up coming to SNC was because I played soccer and I was looking for a place where I could come and still be in the mountains, but also have a beach nearby. When I started going to SNC, I was originally a graphic design major and marketing. And being an athlete and being a very physical person, that kind of changed within the first year or so of going to SNU. I took my first sculpture class with Rick Parsons, and he gave us a palette and he asked us to take the palette and create something new out of it. And this is probably one of the first sculptures I ever made. It's a Celtic knot, and Celtic knots are never ending. And I felt like this was a relevant piece to bring up considering the show, Continual Adjustment, thinking about change. And also thinking about the community that I came into. Sorry, it lagged for a minute and I skipped through a bunch of them. This is another photograph of the piece on the ground. I walked in one day and I saw my piece in the gallery. It was set there to be put into the student show, and I kind of had no idea how I got there, why it was there. And I kind of remember Rick coming up and being like, "You're welcome," and kind of giving me and pushing me to be a part of this community. So once I reached my junior year, it was time to kind of get serious and ask myself if I was gonna spend this time, like it was soccer or kind of this art community. And that was a really big decision for me, but it was also, looking back at it, an easy one. And this is a photograph of one of my pieces from my Midway art portfolio review. And
show her Midway was this piece. This isn't.
And so it's a bunch of slip casted eggs, kind of thinking about perfection and finding beauty in things that aren't perfect. And then also this is kind of what introduced me into the mold making process in general. This is another piece from my midway baggage piece. At this moment in time, I was kind of reflecting, and I feel like I always kind of reflect on kind of where I've been and take that information into where I'm going. And this piece that's kind of what that was about. And so as I decided to switch from playing soccer to being an artist and putting my time into art, I started going to a lot of community events with the art community. And one thing we do every couple of years is we go out to Walker Lake and do a big pit fire with Joe Taylor and his family. And this is a photograph of me, Rick, Sally, and Tuna and Miasha loading the pit. Another kind of thing that the SNU ceramics program has allowed me to do is go to the National Clay Conference and get to know people from the clay world all over the nation. And every year we meet in a city and we take over the city. And sadly, because of COVID, it didn't happen this last year. And I don't think it'll be happening this next year. Here's a photograph from my BFA show, one of my pieces. Kind of taking that idea of mold making and pushing that further. When I'm making my pieces, I like to take objects that already have a purpose and have been created to fill that purpose. And I like to use them as press molds and press the clay into them and then take these forms and alter them and create them into something new and maybe something, or change their function is what I'm trying to say, change their function and put them in a different perspective. Some more photographs from my BFA show. Some things that I've been drawn to in my work are metal, mixing metal in with clay and experimenting with the strengths and weaknesses of different materials, and also mixing them together. I think bringing clay and wood and metal and glass sometimes together really helps each material kind of stand out and also brings out their functions. This piece was created from coffee cans, also from my BFA show. It's called Tipping Point. I took this one to the ranch with me and showed it in our intern show, but I fired it with metal in it, and the metal ended up warping, and it's kind of set up precariously on its edge, and kind of thinking about this form sitting on its edge, and one little bump could send it over. Sorry, my screen's like freaking out. And like I was saying with my work, I really enjoy the process of experimentation, as well as, I mean, since my BFA show, kind of growing salt and rust. This last piece I'm showing you, it's called Unsettled Residue. That was the name of my BFA show. And as you can see in the middle of this form, there's this green line that's formed, and that's from algae being soaked into the form and making its way through the clay wall to the exterior and creating this residue line. Kind of thinking about life and maybe these structures around us that are continually unsettling. So after my BFA show, I graduated, and here's a photograph of all of us who graduated in like 2019. Of course, we can't get together for a regular photo. Everybody's doing their own thing. Kind of snuck a picture with Mary and Rick. And after graduation, the next day, I left to Anderson Ranch in Snowmass, Colorado. This is a photograph from the first day, and this is me and some of my fellow interns. If you don't know about the ranch, it's a world-renowned art center. It's incredible. It has so many different opportunities for so many different artists. They're really known for their workshops, ceramics, sculpture, painting, photography, kids classes, you name it, sometimes a mixture. Let's see if my computer will go forward again. This is a photograph from the first day at work. So the ranch kind of offered me a ton of different opportunities and also taught me a lot of different things. It's kind of weird thinking back now because it's been over a year since I've been back. So all these things I'm recalling are from over a year ago, like graduation. I graduated over a year ago, a year and like 6 months ago. And it's crazy to think that time has passed, but it's also felt like there's a lot that's happened between now and then. And it's crazy to think that I've been home from the ranch for a year. This is a photograph of my first class. So at the ranch, all summer we would work really long hours, preparing for students to come in and cleaning the studios, turning them over, prepping clay, glaze, whatever needed to be done, we got it done to make sure that the classes went well and people had the best experience that they could. And it was an awesome creative community. It's really cool because it's really like the connection and the community are really cool because I'm connected to people who've been to the ranch, and we're all kind of connected to each other through art. And we all gather in this one area to experience art together and experiment and try new things. Sorry, my computer is lagging on the photographs going forward. This is a photograph of 5 cords of wood, prepping for wood firing for the summer. And this is only one of the many piles that showed up in the driveway outside of the kiln yard. This is a photograph of after our big auction that we hold, auction off work that a ton of different faculty from the ranch have donated in order to help fund scholarships for students and fund the ranch and everything that needs to be taken care of. This is a photograph of the Wall of Shame It's outside one of the original buildings on the property, and it has a bunch of different cups from different artists as well as students who visited the ranch. And as I was walking around the ranch, there was a lot of different things that inspired me. Obviously, I'm really attracted to machinery and industrial stuff, you know, things that serve a function and are also kind of like deteriorating throughout time. Learning new things such as firing different kilns, and also being a part of different kiln firings that maybe will be different than they had before. Doug retired after 35 years of working at the ranch. If you guys don't know Doug K. Spear, he's super important mentor to a lot of different people, especially in the ceramic community. This kiln right here, that's the reason I bring it up, this kiln I'm firing right here. We kind of changed it and now we call it the Dougie Gama, and kind of thinking about him when we were firing this, because this was the first firing without him being there, which is a big deal because this kiln shed wouldn't have, you know, been there. The ranch wouldn't have been what it is now. So I think me and many people thank him for that. Doug and there in the background with Rangeley, and this is kind of how we would end our days at the ranch, sitting out in the driveway having a beer, talking. Like I said, did whatever needed to be done. This was a concrete slab we poured. Learned how to roll a massive car kiln into the kiln shed on little things of steel, like Egyptian style. And then, you know, feeling like I made a mark and like a piece of me was still there, you know? And I think that's why when I came back from the ranch, it was an adjustment. And I think that's that and many other things from this last year, obviously with COVID and the pandemic, really changing stuff and the ideas that I had for the show. Like I said, I was one of 25 interns. So kind of thinking about all these different ideas and all these different people that we had met together, and all these different ideas coming together that were the same, but also kind of different. And then I kind of got obsessed with this idea of pipes, these things that are hidden underground and in walls, and these connections, and this transfer of different things from one place to another, and kind of thinking about them in a metaphorical way, maybe thinking about transfer of like information from one place to another, or the directions that people take. So when I got back from the ranch, like I said, I had to adjust from being in a studio that kind of had everything and anything that you really would need to create. I mean, there was so much opportunity with the facilities, and I don't know, it was hard. I think I kind of adjusted to being graduated when I came back as well, because I didn't really have that period of time to adjust to that, because the day after I graduated, I was on a plane to Snowmass at 6 a.m. And so when I came back to Incline, I had made bowls for Alibi in town. If you guys don't know, that's a local brewery in town. And started looking for a job as well as a studio. So I was lucky enough to get a job painting. I helped paint the interior and exterior of multi-million-dollar homes in town, interior, exterior. And at one point I was the only woman on my crew. And I remember kind of talking and still talking to people who've never seen or worked with a woman on the train, like on the job site, you know. So that was it, that has been, and it is an interesting experience. But I work for a company that's super great, and we actually have another girl working on the crew now, and I'd like to think that we were progressive. And here's some photographs of me, some of the stuff that I every day at work. Sometimes it's spraying doors, sometimes we're sanding ceilings that are a couple stories high on scaffolding, being on ladders, thinking about kind of the feeling of being on a ladder and respecting that. There's a lot of kind of different things I've learned from painting. As painters, we're usually the last ones on the job. We're the ones who are finishing everything, fixing everything. We kind of have our finger, or I guess our paint and everything. And I think we are required to learn a lot of different skills, such as being on a ladder and how to set our ladder properly and how to be safe on ladders. And I think that all kind of is something that I've thought about while making this work. And I think for work to come, this is probably, this is what it's going to be inspired from. I'll be spending my this winter in a tractor, and I work for a company who does paint in the spring and summer, and then in the winter it does snow removal. So like I said, when I came back, hi Tom, this is you. This is Tom, my friend Tom. He's sitting outside of the studio we have now. It's currently on the bottom floor of the courthouse building here in Incline. I decided to put this picture of Tom in here because to give me a moment to thank him for helping me with rewriting my artist statement this last year and talking through the show and different ideas. So we found this is my dirty studio, but it's a full studio, and this is from today. Actually, I wanted to take a photo of it currently. So when I came back, I had to find a studio space, and then because of my pod award, I was able to acquire different tools, pay for shelving, fix a kiln that I was able to bring back from the ranch, so I can put this show on. So this is kind of my half of the studio currently. Super full, as you can see, a lot of different pipe forms going on. Like I was saying, while making this show, this piece, the periscope piece that I have in my show, is kind of something I've been working on throughout the duration of being back from the ranch. So I've kind of been working on it for a year now. And there's a lot of trial and error, and there's days where it would be awesome, and it'd be going along and it'd be like this, and I'd be like, oh wow, this is great, you know, stuff's going great. And then as you can see, there's a lot of different renditions and as well as pieces. I was kind of thinking about making a lot of pieces because I'm interested in this idea of modular sculpture, you know, being able to change it and change sculpture, you know, rearrange the sculpture. But then there'd also be days when I'd walk in and my sculpture had just like collapsed. So it was like a back and forth kind of between those moments. And that kind of brings me to the show now, Continual Adjustment. So the show kind of was all kind of started with this piece, like I was saying, my Periscope piece. And when I started making this piece, I was trying to figure out, obviously, how to, you know, make it into different sections so I could fire it. That's something that I had to think about, you know, like how do I fit this in the kiln? But I also want to make this thing big and have a presence in the gallery. And so I started making them, and I created these forms using sonotubes. If you don't know what a sonotube is, it's what's used to make, like, I guess, the foot at the base of like a post, or like it's kind of like trying to think of this word right now, totally slipped my mind, but it's a cylindrical tube basically that you put cement into, and I kind of used it as a press mold to create these different sections. And then for the elbow joints, I cut them and put them together. And kind of when I was putting this piece together, I had a lot of different questions for myself, and kind of like, why am I making a periscope, you know, and what am I trying to show someone or people or whoever? What am I trying to see, you know? And a lot of the inspiration behind this was kind of more so the feeling of viewing something from a distance, coming back from the ranch, you know, viewing that community from a distance, but also realizing when I was there, like viewing the SNU community from a distance. So we're always kind of viewing these different things that are going on in life from a distance, and what we seeing is like, is that exactly what's happening? It's kind of difficult, obviously, explaining the show. Sorry, having issues with my photos again. Because, you know, we're living in a time of a pandemic, and like I said, I haven't done one of these Zooms before, so I guess I'm trying to describe to you the show, and I'll obviously show you these pictures. Like, I don't know, it kind of fits into what I'm kind of trying to say about the Periscope, you know, viewing this thing and this information, but also only viewing it from a certain perspective. To kind of start talking about some of the other pieces in the show, I made this piece where I slip casted a bunch of light bulbs, kind of still experimenting with that mold that I had made at the ranch, and kind of thinking about them as obviously these ideas, but being connected to this fish stringer made of baling wire. And a lot of these pieces in the show, I don't feel like I'm necessarily trying to tell you something, but I feel like I'm more so trying to ask questions. Kind of like, why are these light bulbs connected to this stringer? You know, do I want to be one of these bulbs on the stringer? What am I connected to this thing, or is this other thing connected to me? You know, is the bulb connected to the string, or is the stringer connected to the bulb? Kind of thinking about individualism and similarities, and how even though all these bulbs might look similar, they're all individual. And what does that mean? Throughout this last year, and since I was at the ranch, I listened to a lot of like women's rock. And there's a song called Black Sheep by, and she says, if everybody else is doing it, then why the hell should I? And I feel like I've thought about that with this piece in specific. Getting to the ladder piece, obviously, kind of inspired by work and working with a ladder and on a ladder. This piece is made of alder siding and then also ceramic rungs that have been extruded through an extruder. And kind of thinking about the ladder as an object. Ladder, its function is, you know, to elevate you and to get you from one place to another. And a kind of a question I found myself asking is, where am I going? And this kind of implied journey that this ladder has, and also danger. We're stuck again. There's a side view of the ladder. And kind of to jump back to this piece, it's funny because I walked through here with a couple people, obviously, with masks, and there's a note on the door to, you know, no more than 3 people in the gallery. And navigating the space, I think, in that context is kind of interesting. But there was certain things hidden around the gallery.
This is really cool, babe. Did you ever see?
Sorry. So when you're looking up through the periscope, what I wanted to put at the end, the whole thing with the periscope wasn't, I didn't want to necessarily show anything. I wanted you to more so question your perspective, you know, like how you're viewing through this constructed form, and how you're viewing something, but it's also been flipped, you know, like it's been, the information that's being given to you has been altered and changed. And the video I wanted to put at the end, which I'll show you at the end of this, which is in a couple slides, don't worry. It's a video that has continual change. it's continually moving. It isn't stagnant. There's movement going on, and there's also a sound that I will show you. And this is a photograph from inside the gallery, kind of with everything together, viewing the projection on the wall. So kind of when I was saying there was little things hidden around the gallery, the extra pieces from the periscope that were set around the side is actually, they're actually set up to view the different pieces in the gallery. So when you walk up, you can view the ladder through these different elbow. So the ladder, and when I did walk Rick through the gallery, he did ask me, what if they missed this magic moment of viewing these sculptures? And I don't know, I mean, I did kind of fight with myself and wondered if I should show this, but I'm hoping that this will, if anything, intrigue you to go to see the show in person, because these photographs are amazing, and all of them they're done by Ryan McCarthy, next year's 2020 pod recipient, and they're beautiful. But there's something really cool about using these sculptures to view another sculpture, using these objects and viewing the sculptures in a different way. Let me show you this video quick. So this is the video that's projected at the end of the periscope. So when I made this piece, kind of a question that I think comes up is the sound and, the video, like what came first. And the sound is kind of what came first. The sound, which here I'll turn up so you could hear it a little bit. It's kind of this mechanical sound, but it also kind of sounds like maybe like a clock or like a metronome ticking. And then this repeated sound of water. I took this video or this sound clip when I was throwing at the ranch on a Solner wheel. And I was kind of thinking about like the moment, and I knew I was going to be leaving soon, and kind of capturing that sound of the wheel. And as I'm thinking about time passing, time's like passing, but also like I'm making at the same time, and kind of thinking about the sounds of making And also this mechanical, but also like, I don't know, like rhythmic sound in the background, like the ticking. And I wanted to couple it with this video of this reflection of into water. Like I said, I wanted it to be moving and changing and not the same. It was continually like being disrupted. So that is all I got for you.
Thanks, Anna. Would you be willing to do some Q&As with folks?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to get back to not screen sharing mode.
Great. So feel free to turn your videos on. You don't have to, but we'll open up to Q&A, so you can either pop on your microphone and ask Anna a question, or you can put it in the chat and I can relay it to her. No questions?
No, I have a question.
I knew you would, Chris.
Yeah, yeah, and well, first off, just a really cool work, and I really love this sense of what you do for work and what you do for art, and the way that like what you do for work, how that's a fertile ground for metaphor. Like it's not just like you're it's not just like you're punching the clock, but you're looking for metaphor in the work that you do, which is cool, right? That kind of the way that art and making a living, sometimes outside the zone of art, it can still be part of an art practice. But you know, I guess the question I have is just this: how you deal with making molds, and where you sort of locate this mold making with mass production, where it's things that are handmade. It's like in this funny space between handmade things and mass produced things, but you know, but not industrial mass produced. And I'm just curious what's attractive to you about that, what this kind of small scale or maybe artisanal mass production, what is interesting about that to you?
I guess I'm really interested in the process, kind of more so as like taking an object and mass producing it, but I'm kind of more so interested in the objects that are like not perfect, like taking these objects and altering them, or having these mass produced objects, but having them look the same and be the same, but they're not the same, you know, and I enjoy making them look not the same or altering them. And I think that's, I feel like it's kind of like, it kind of seems like rebellious, kind of like this idea of taking something that has like this function and this purpose that it like serves, but also altering it and making it serve a different purpose. But it's like, I feel like a lot of the time when I'm making my work, it's like I have an idea for it, and of course it's going to tell me kind of what it wants to be, you know? So I'm interested in using forms that have kind of been established for a certain purpose, like those sonotubes. And in a way that it's a mold, it's, you know, creating a shape. It's forcing a shape upon a material or an object. And I think it's interesting to change that, if that makes sense.
Makes sense to me.
Cool.
Hi, Anna.
Hey.
I love how you talk about your work and the evolution of your work. And I'm curious, after seeing photos of the in process in studio, work as it transitions into the Tahoe Gallery. And I'm curious, just because of your sort of how you're speaking about your work and how it sort of teaches you what it is, if the meaning or your perspective on the work has shifted since it's been installed and since you've revisited it a few times.
Oh, completely. I mean, I don't feel like I really even knew what those pieces were until I got them into the gallery. But even then, like, I feel like they always change, you know. I was talking to Rick and I was like, hey, you know, talking to him about the work. And I was like, I just feel weird because a lot of people have been like, oh, aren't you excited? You're like, your show's installed, like stuff's great, you know? And I was just like, yeah, I'm excited. But it was like part of me, like, it hasn't stopped, you know, like the work is still, this is the important part, you know, like I'm listening now. And I think the meaning in the work has definitely changed because once you get it into the gallery, that's like when you really see it come together. And it's crazy because, like I say, like you always have plans for stuff. And I think that's why with me and art and like art and life are so the same. It's like you have plans or you have an idea of what you should do, but there's always something that you can't control that's gonna change the process or the outcome. And I think I'm still learning stuff from the pieces. And I definitely think my view of them has changed. There was definitely problem solving in the gallery. And I forgot to thank everybody who helped me make the work. You guys know who you are, and install the work and putting up with me and crisis mode and me being like upset, you know, when stuff is like not going directly as planned. And yeah, I mean, the Periscope piece, like that changed. I would say not completely, but I think at a moment it told me kind of what it needed to be, you know, like I feel like it all kind of ended up working out the way it was supposed to, and the way I planned it wouldn't have been as good as how it is now, if that makes sense. Like the ability to view the gallery from several different perspectives instead of with my original idea of just viewing through the one. That changed. And it's kind of funny just the way that things are connected. And sometimes with art and making, like, you're worried that it doesn't make sense, but you know, the art's gonna do its job if you show up and do yours.
I need it.
It's unmuted. You talk.
Oh,
Anna, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Yeah.
Can you
yeah.
see us?
Judy,
Okay.
Judy has a question.
I
Okay.
can't see you.
Okay, you have to open the video, I think. Anna, I love the word you used, rebellious. I love that word because it's synonymous with being an artist, I think.
Mhm.
You're going to look at the world a different
Stop
way
sharing. Yes,
if you call yourself an artist, and you are, my dear. You're wonderful. You're just wonderful. I'm so pleased to listen in to your journey. Your mind must have exploded at the ranch with so many different interns there with different thought processes, and how hard it what must have been for you to come back to an empty room in the basement of the courthouse, trying to make a studio. Like, oh my God, how do I do this? But look at what you did. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations. Wonderful,
Thank
wonderful.
you. No, and that, I mean, that's totally right. And the ranch did blow my mind. And something that Doug told us is every time, like just when students come to take a class at the ranch, it's like a week or two long. And that information they have will feed them for years. And I had a whole summer of information, and I feel like I'm still trying to process it, but it was a wonderful experience.
Good.
And I think SNU really set me up for that. You know, there's a lot of people and interns there who had never had the opportunity to speak about their work, or maybe talk about their work, which isn't a bad thing, but I think SNU really offered a space where you could do that and talk about the work, and I think it really prepared me, and I'm eternally grateful for the ranch and SNU.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, let me just make a comment. I hope that you, like Rick, will be an ambassador for the ranch. It's a great place. It is a unique place.
As is SNU. Okay. Now.
Yes.
Okay, now.
What do I do?
You hit mute.
Hit mute. Okay.
Okay.
Anna, we have a question for you in the chat from Lauren.
Okay.
And she says, Anna, I'm curious, as you say, you don't want things to be perfect, but I'm wondering if you see them as perfect, or do you just want it to be without a specific persona at all? Also, congrats.
Thanks, Lauren. I feel like when I started doing art, I had this idea of what art should be. And as I'm continually making art, I feel like we as artists, we always see the flaws in our work, or flaws. And I think a lot of the time those flaws have kind of been my favorite part of it. You know, it's kind of like who I am. They talk about, in ceramics at least, and I'm sure in other mediums, them having a maker's mark, you know, and sometimes there's objects that are so refined that you can't really find that maker's mark in the object. And I feel like that's kind of where I'm coming from, where it's like, I don't want it to be perfect, but I'm still trying to communicate, you know. For example, like the eggs or the light bulbs, they're not perfect, you know. If you think about them being perfect, what I mean is like taking them and sanding them down and making a perfect cast so it looks directly identical, you know, super literal. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm interested in the imperfection in my work, but also like in art in general. And I don't know if that makes sense, but, or if that answers your question.
Other questions for Anna? None out there? If you've got it just like bubbling beneath the surface, you're with
Don't be
safe people,
afraid.
let it out.
Hi, Anna.
So
Hi, Mia.
I got a question.
I'm into it. Let's do it.
What's the next show?
When's the next show?
Yeah.
So I mean, there might be a show before this, but me and Ryan McCarthy, and also a lady, an artist named Jen from the Reno area, we got accepted into a group show, in January 2022 at Sierra Arts Center. So we will be working together to put on a show down there. But I am planning on applying to more stuff soon. Shows, grants, etc. So we'll see. Could be sooner than that.
Hi, sorry, I'm like low. I have a question from Carly. She is texting me. Her Zoom is not working very well. So her question is, rebellion tied to the comfort of repetition motion or in spirit of question. Also, how much does I'm gonna mess this up. I apologize. How much does repetitive motion influence the interest in making the same into changing displays of creation?
Wow. Carly. Okay. So I feel like sometimes, or I guess just in my process in general, I find comfort in being repetitious, but I think within the processes within them, it's never really, they're like I was saying, they're never really identical. They always kind of turn out different. And then depending on the way the process goes is how I alter them. Rebellion, as that plays into rebellion, I think it's like doing something, I don't know, I mean, I am doing something repetitive, but I'm also changing it, you know, it's not, and I think that's like the rebellious action in it. It's not falling in line, it's not going to fit back in the mold, you know, it's extending itself outside its barriers. Do we have a response?
Okay. Any other questions out there for Anna? Okay. Well, I want to thank you all so much for attending and listening to Anna. And if we were in person, I would say round of applause, but we can do what it is in sign language for clapping, so we don't like frizzle out Zoom.
Yeah.
So when campus safely reopens, Anna's show is installed in the Tahoe Gallery, which I failed to mention in the beginning, and it's open for public viewing at that time safely with masks and distance, as Anna mentioned. So keep an eye on our Instagram for when campus reopens. You can come check out the exhibition in person. I can guarantee you, while those photos are beautiful, it's amazing to be in the space with those pieces and see them in scale to yourself. We also, it's been mentioned, but I just want to call it out. We actually have a number of pod recipients on this call, historical and our future pod recipients. So I hope that we'll all see you in 1 year to celebrate whatever Ryan McCarthy gets up to in the next year with his pod award. I hope that you can all join us for Scott next week, Latinos Who Lunch later in the month, and Kirsten Vickery's BFA in December. So any last questions or anything before we wrap up our evening? Okay, fantastic. Thank you all so much for being here. It's been an absolute joy. And please come check out the exhibit once campus opens up to the public again.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anna. Congratulations. No small feat, especially in a pandemic.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Hi.
Hi, Mia. What's up, Rick and Molly?
Bye.